handling in PHP. So we'll see about form handling and how to create and manage cookies and sessions, right? Fine. Before we start with form handling directly, we should know about a concept of super global variables, which are provided by PHP, right? So you can see a list of super global variables, which is provided by PHP, and these super global variables can be used anywhere in any page without doing anything or without requiring to import anything, right? So whenever we want in a PHP script, uh, if we want to jump to a particular server, we can use the $_server super global variable, and in that we can provide the URL for jumping to some another web page or any other web resource, right? Similarly, for handling of request, we have request variable, for handling post methods, for handling get method, for handling files, for handling the environment, for handling cookies, sessions. So all these are super global variables which are provided by PHP. Okay. You can see an example over here in which we have written a script, PHP script. We have two variables x and y with their respective values, and in the function we are treating x and y as super global variable, right, with the use of globals super global variable, right, and we are storing that value in another global variable called z. Understood? And then we are trying to print that value of z from outside the function. So since that z was created as a global variable, we are able to access it outside the function in which it was created, and we are able to see the output. I mean the value present in z, that will be 100, right? So this was one example. We'll see all of these super global variables as and when we encounter them. Fine. Okay. Based on this, we have our next part of form handling. Okay. So the very first thing to understand is, like we did in case of servlets, or we did in the case of JSP as well, the way to send the data from the client system or the client form to the server side, we have two methods to do it, get and post. So the same two methods also prevail in PHP, right? So you can see an HTML page, a.html, in which we have written or we have created a form using the form tag. Method you can see is the post method. Okay, and the action consists of the target PHP page, right? The form data will be sent to this PHP page, that is welcome.php. Understood? Until now, what we wrote in the action part, either we wrote the servlet name or we wrote the JSP page name, .jsp file name, right? Now we are mentioning .php code, I mean the target PHP code. Here we have a input of text type, and let us assume that the name of the text field is Amartya, okay, whatever it is, and we have a submit button. So whenever we'll submit this data, the welcome.php, whatever code it has, whatever it wants to do, the name should have been Amartya here. We'll make here name. Okay. Yeah, this is correct now. So we are accessing the name field. Understood? We are accessing the name field whose name is name itself, and that is why we have mentioned this name over here. And whatever value will be present in this name field, that will be echoed out. I mean, that will be printed as a string on the output. So the way we are going to access the name field, I mean the value of the name field, is by using the super global variable $_post, simply because the method with which the data is being sent is post. So we have to use this particular super global variable. Okay. As a result of which we are going to get the value of this input field in return, and that will be printed. Fine. Similar to _post, we have the underscore get super global variable, right? So here the method was get, and that is why we will use this particular super global variable to access the value, right? Simple. The few changes that you must have already studied, the changes or the difference between the get and the post method for sending the data. So get method we will use whenever we have to request for some data, right? Remember one thing, we use the get method whenever we want some data from a specific resource, that is one of the server side programs, right? At that point of time we will use the get method. But definitely in order to uh, get that data, if it is required to send some data, right? In order to fetch the data, if the resource requires some data, then that data is to be sent as the URL parameters. Understood? We generally fetch the data based on uh, some other data, right? You must have seen that when we fire the SQL queries from the server side to the third tier, the database tier. So in that case, we will have to specify some where clause, right? So that is nothing but the URL parameters that we need to pass through the get method, right? But in case of post, whenever we are sending some data using the conventional HTTP post method, in that case, the data is to be sent to the server in order to deposit it on some resource or to update some of the resource, right? That is the case in which we use the post method. One common difference between get and post is that whatever information we send through the get method, it will always be visible through the URL parameters. The information will be visible, whereas in case of post method, that information is not visible. Okay, but there is some limit on the information which we send through the get method. So only 2000 characters can be sent using the get method, whereas there is no such limit using the post method. Okay. Another thing is that since the variables are not visible when we use the post method, since the variable, I mean the parameter values of the URL are not visible, so we are not able to bookmark that particular page, right? So that is one major difference. Okay. So these were the differences between get and post method. Yeah, we have a example of creating a web page and then writing a PHP script in the same page, right? So a very trivial example, we'll discuss that. Okay. Again, the resource is W3 schools. I hope the page is visible. I'll zoom it up a bit. So on the right hand side, you can see a form which we are which we are filling, and we are sending it to the same page again. Okay, so let us see the designing of the form quickly. So as the part of HTML, what we have some static text PHP form validation example, and then we have made a indication that star indicates required fields, right? So you can see the effect of that on the right hand side over here. So in order to get that effect, I mean the text to appear in red color, we are using some class, and where we have set that class, we have set the class over here, right? In the style tag, we are using we are creating class, and the color specified is hexadecimal red. Okay, so with that, the effect of this particular text is in red color. Okay, fine. And span, uh, definitely the use of span is to limit the effect of whatever we are doing. We use the span tag, right? Okay. The main thing is that we are creating a form having the post method. Okay, this is important. And the action, where we have to specify the target page to which the information will be submitted, right? So that target page is the PHP page itself. I mean the current page itself. So how do we refer to the current page? With PHP underscore self. Understood? So as I told, if we want to jump, or if we want to if we want to go or redirect to a particular resource, we use the dollar underscore server super global variable, right? And to that variable, if we specify PHP underscore self, that means whatever form data will be submitted, that will be submitted to this particular PHP script only, to this particular page only. Okay, no issue. So we have a name field, uh, a text input, and value for which will be the value of this variable, PHP variable name. Now what is placed in this variable? Initially, you can see over here, whenever the page load, this script will get executed, this PHP script will get executed, and the name variable over here, you can see all of these variables are having empty string at the start. Okay, and also the name error variable or the email error variable, whatever we have, everything will be having a empty string, right? So that is why when we load this page, you can see the value of the name field is empty string. Fine. Okay, then we have put a star again by using the same class, error class, so that that star comes in red color. Also, the string, the error string that we have to print for name, initially it is empty string, right? And that is why you can see nothing is appearing over here after this star, right? Whenever a error will occur according to the script that we have written, if an error occurs, we are going to put a error message in this variable, right? And then when the page will load again, that error message will be printed as a part of this variable. Over here it will get printed, right? Whatever the error may be, right? Related to name. If it is an invalid name, it will print a corresponding error message. So this particular arrangement has been made for the email field as well, for the website field as well, although we are not having a compulsory mark for the website, and we are using a text area for creating the comment box. Okay. Another input that we are using is a set of radio buttons, which is also a compulsory field. Same arrangements are made for that also. And then finally we have a submit button. Okay, done. So this is the end of our form. After this, you can see a string, your input. So whatever we will put over here, and when we will press submit, our inputs will be printed one after the other over here, because the target page is this page itself. So whatever information will be submitted, it will get printed over here. Okay. So what it is going to print, it is going to echo the variable name, the variable email, website, comment, and gender. It is also being printed now. Currently also it is printed, but since all these variables are having empty strings, we can't see anything, right? Okay. So this is the HTML part and some script, PHP script that we have written at the end. Okay, let us go to the main script, again enclosed over here, that will get executed as soon as the page is submitted. Fine. So these we discussed that we have a set of variables, some error variables and some normal variables whose values are empty initially. Now, whenever the page will be submitted, this script will run, and it is firstly going to check that whatever request we have made, is it post request or not? Because here we have mentioned post, right? Over here, the method is post. So if it is a post submission, only then the script will get executed, otherwise it won't. Fine. So once we have confirmed that, then we are going to check, is the name field empty or not. Okay, so with the empty function, empty is a inbuilt PHP function. We are going to check name field. We just now saw an example in which we are accessing any field from the posted request. So we have to provide the name for that field, and that is name. Okay, and if that is empty, then it is a problem. So we are occupying the name error variable with some error message. Understood? And if it is not empty, in that case, we are testing the input, whether it qualifies for submission or not, based on whatever rules we want to put up, right? So there is a check being performed over here. So your name, whatever you enter, has to only contain letters and white spaces. So that is what we are checking over here, right? So if it is not matching this particular rule, like prag match is a rule checking function, right? So we are knotting it up. If it is not following this rule, then the error message is something different, right? Firstly, if it is empty, then we are printing name is required. If it is filled, but it is not having only letters and white spaces, then we are occupying the error message with some different message. So here, if you observe, if you submit the form, you can see error messages are displayed for the name, for the email field, and for the gender, which were the compulsory fields, right? So similar checks are performed in the PHP script for the email part, right? Here we are checking whether the email is valid or not, for the website also, and for the comment portion also, and for the gender as well, right? Done. Okay, so this was a small example for you to see. So if we fill the information over here next time, I fill it, whatever it is. We'll see the text has been printed over here, whatever we enter, no matter it is valid or not, because of the validations it will check, but it is being printed over here, whatever we are trying to submit, right? Because of this particular script that we have written at the end. Clear? So you can use it for your own reference. I have provided the link over here in the presentation as well. Okay.